Did you do the live stream piece?
You want me to do the live stream?
Yeah.
I asked you, and you said you did.
Well, I configured it.
Okay.
And I'm going to train Marlis how to configure it. So I don't have to remember how to,
There you go.
remember to do it.
Cool.
Okay, we will call this regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order Monday, January 24th, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Barb Mittman? Here. Steve Skaggs?
Here.
Sandy Eric? Here. Dane Nielsen?
Here.
Jason Sampson?
Here.
Brian Hanson?
Here. Okay, first item is approval of the agenda. Move to approve.
Second.
Dane and Sandy, any discussion?
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, it's there.
Okay, seeing no discussion, council please vote.
Aye.
Yep.
Takes us to the public hearing, which is on the 2022 capital improvement project street improvements for S14 and 11th Street. So we'll open up the public hearing on proposed 2022 street improvement projects, divisions 1 and 2. Karen, did you receive any comment?
No comment.
Is there anyone here to speak in that public hearing? Being none, we'll close the public hearing. This moves us to resolution number 47, 2021-2022, a resolution finally approving and confirming plan specifications, forms of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2022 street improvement project division 1 and 2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Brian, Barb, any discussion? Seeing none, council please vote.
Aye.
And that is approved. Takes us into consideration of bids for 2022 street improvement projects, division 1 and 2. And then with that comes resolution number 48, 2021-2022, resolution awarding contracts for the 2022 street improvement project, division 1 and 2.
So do we need to approve the resolution and then award the contract, or is it all wrapped up in the same one?
The resolution awards the contract. So if you're ready
Okay.
to award, then approve the resolution.
Okay, I'll move to approve resolution 48.
I'll second.
So motion by Brian, second by Sandy, opens up discussion. No discussion, council please vote.
Aye.
And that is approved. Takes us to public hearing B, amendment for urban renewal revitalization plan. So we'll open up the public hearing on proposed amendment to the Nevada urban revitalization area. And Karen, did we receive any comments?
No written comments.
Okay, and is there anyone here to speak in the public hearing regarding the urban renewal area? Seeing none, we'll close that public hearing. Move to resolution number 49, 2021-2022, resolution adopting amendment to the plan for the Nevada urban revitalization area.
So moved. Second.
Steve and Dane, any discussion? Seeing none, council please vote.
Aye.
Still one more hanging out there.
Okay, that is approved. Takes us into C, public hearing C, disposing of city property lot A and outlot A of Academy Estates. And we'll open that public hearing. Karen, did we receive any comment? Is there anyone here to speak in the public hearing regarding disposal of property in Academy Estates? Okay, maybe you can make your way to the podium there. Well, we'll need it for the recording.
I'm here to say that, like, people have been asking me what to have a dump place for trees and limbs and old flowers, a dump place so people can take it. And I got 5 minutes of signature that people sign. They want a dump place.
Yeah, I'll pass it down. Let me see it.
Is that regarding this particular property?
That's off on 6th Street at the end of town, right across from the Fawn Clinic. Used to be we used to have a dump place before. And I lived in this town probably for, I'd say 20 years. I've been living here for a while. And that's all I've done for people in this town, help them out and take stuff there. And I see they put up a gate that didn't make sense, and they put up cameras and that makes sense. But I'm talking for the people that lives in this town. And they've been asking me, how come we don't have a dump place in this town? Because they say we don't let go clear names. To me, that doesn't make no sense to go clear names, and what you have to pay, have a dump there plus the gas. And there's the price there right in front of the page, exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And like I said, I've been in this town for a while. I'd say at least 20 years, possibly 30. And I've been taking stuff up there probably 20 years. I never had a problem. And I got up there, so I'll talk to the city council. And I think I talked to you guys about it before. And it seemed like the only question I get is just like the same old answer, you've been working on it. But people, we need a dump place here in the Meta. They take trees and limbs, and even though dead flowers, they'll say like yard waste. And we need a place here in the Meta. And there's a lot of people but ask me, how come? I said, I came to talk to the city council, and you guys, see, you give me the same answer every time. You've been working on me, working on it. Even time I could out there, please say, hey, can you talk to the city council? I said, I have. I talked to the city council, and that's all they told me before. So I think I'm saying is, and that doesn't have to be open during the winter. It could be spring, summer, and fall. The first day of winter, close it up. You don't need to have it open. But I know what they're talking about. Okay.
For the city
That's-
dump, yeah.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I think that's helpful, Louis. So,
The place that Louis is referring to is very close to where these areas are. It's just to the south of it. So what they're talking about is where the Academy Circle is, where all that stuff, not to the south of it, where the city dump is. So,
Where that big church is, that big abandoned church.
right, that's what they're referring to right now for this portion of it.
You know,
Same area though.
Yeah, same area.
you know, once we get a dump place, that's all I'm asking.
Yep.
And it's not these people are asking.
Yeah, and Louis, you're right. It is taking a long time, but there's a lot of laws and things that we have to work through as a city in order for us to make that possible. So that is the reason why it's taking longer, is because we have to actually abide by rules and federal regulations as well. So,
That's understandable.
yeah, so thank you for addressing that concern with us.
You know, I just say people say we want a dump area. It doesn't have to be open this spring, summer, and fall. And the first day of winter, close it up.
Thank you for bringing that forward and for turning this in, Louis. And then staff will continue to work on it because it is something we do hear about. Okay, so on Academy Estates, we have additional comment for that public hearing. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, moving to resolution number 50, 2021-2022, resolution to dispose of real property.
Move to approve.
Second.
Barb, Dane, any discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote.
Aye.
That's approved. Moves to consent agenda. Any item may be removed for separate consideration.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sandy and Dane, any discussion? Council, please vote.
Aye.
That is approved, which takes us to the public forum, which is time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. And we're going to start the public forum with an annual report from the Nevada Public Library.
Hello. So I am here to report on fiscal year 2021 for the Nevada Public Library. And I will do my best, but I was not here for that fiscal year, so bear with me a little bit. I included in the city council packet the annual report that I submitted to the county board of supervisors as well. And it includes a lot of highlights from the year, including our new digital sign, and we had a lot of great sponsors to help support that. We also added 5 hotspots for circulation to Nevada residents and rural Story County residents, and we added those in December of 2020. In fiscal year 2021, there was 92 total checkouts, and already in this year, we've had 111. And so it's very rare that those are available for people to just come in and check them out. They're almost always reserved and being constantly bought in and the next day sent back out with somebody else. And so we're doing a good job of providing a good service to people who don't necessarily have reliable internet. And potentially we would like to expand that in the future. We have 12 new public computers that we added this past summer. And of course, we had some major staffing changes. All 4 of our full-time librarians are new as of September 2021. And then for statistics, in terms of circulation and everything, the report that I gave to the county didn't have a lot of hard numbers. So I wanted to pass around this additional information. Fiscal year 2020, we had 4 months of pandemic in that year. Fiscal year 2021, we had a full year of the pandemic. And so the Nevada Public Library circulation records, like every public library, really took a beating. But we are super excited that we are well on our way to recovering from that. As you can see, the first chunk of numbers is our physical collection, split between adult books, young adult books, children's, video or DVDs, CD books on tape and CD musics, and then periodicals and all other physical items. And even though we're only 6 months into this fiscal year, we've already made major improvements and come out ahead of last fiscal year in a lot of categories. And then our digital circulation, we're right on track to continue with where we were last year. And so we're excited. We do know that the pandemic definitely changed some people's habits permanently. And so digital is definitely becoming increasingly popular for a lot of patrons. And we will continue to try to meet their needs for digital books, ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, research materials, videos, etc. In terms of programming, 93% of our programming was done live virtual format in 2021, but we were still able to have over 150 programs and over 2,500 attendees, which is a huge amount of people who are willing to log into Zoom or Facebook to get some kind of educational or entertainment programming from the library. While we are moving to in-person programming again, we are trying to remain cautious, especially with the rising infection rates right now. So we're offering hybrid events using an owl camera, just like this one. The other big green box on the county report, full service, limited contact. So the Nevada Public Library the physical building was closed for much of 2021, but the librarians and staff there provided a lot of services and resources for patrons despite having the physical closure. And so when I came into my office, there was a stack of papers about this high. They had kept tallies of everything they had done during their time off. And they answered over 5,400 phone calls. There was over 2,600 people picking up materials, over 705 reservations of materials, over 300 people calling about using the computer, over 250 people calling to get help with printing, faxing, and copying, over 500 people calling just to get their online account information so then they could go on and reserve their own information. Over 30 people called for other online support issues. 115 called with reference questions. Those would be questions about, what's the phone number for this, or where is this item located, or I've had people call with questions about how much fiber is in a certain brand of applesauce that we've helped them out with. We had over 300 people knock on the door at some point to find out information, 129 browsing appointments, and over 800 calls that couldn't be classified. Some were for tax form appointments, book donations, hotspot questions, meeting room questions, study room hours, vaccine, location of the food pantry, etc. So I know that the library was closed and a lot of people didn't get to see all the work that the librarians put in, despite having that building physically closed. But they really did offer a lot to the residents of Nevada despite that. And then I just want to touch on some funding information. So because of the pandemic and because of our staffing changes, we did lose some state and county funding for this fiscal year. The Story County librarians worked out a new formula for distributing the county allocation that was intended to be more equitable to the smaller libraries in Story County. And so because of that new formula, while the county didn't distribute less money to libraries, it got allocated and distributed differently. And so Nevada, not being one of those smaller libraries, did take a hit. However, we are still working on making up that funding in other ways through donations and grants. Last year, we received 3 separate grants worth over $7,000. And this year, I can't give details, but we're already going to be beating that amount. And then we also received a lot of generous donations already from groups and individuals who want to help support the public library. And that is all the information I have for you. If anybody has any questions, I've got 5 of our board members here who I believe were all here last fiscal year. So they can answer any questions that I cannot.
Council, any questions for Aaron or the board?
general comment, I took my son in on Saturday morning and he loved the puppets and the puzzles.
Awesome. We like to hear that. It made all of us very happy the day we brought all of our kids' stuff back out. And as soon as it started getting used, all of us adult librarians were kind of back behind our little area, like doing a little happy dance, like, yeah, it worked. People like it.
About how much funding was lost by the reallocation of the county funds?
We lost about $15,000 with the reallocation. Most of the other libraries, so the only libraries that are our size or larger is Story City and Ames. Ames, I believe, and I can double check the numbers and get back to you for sure, but Ames, I believe, came out about the same, and Story City came out about the same. And then the smaller libraries, the Cambridge, the Maxwell, the Colo, all received more because they do not get as much funding from city or state.
Thank you.
Well, I'd sure like to thank the trustees for their good work and keeping on with everything that's going on with the library and all the changes and staffing and everything. No, it's a big volunteer effort, so thank you very much.
I agree. They have made my life a lot easier coming into this new position, so thank you.
And I'll echo what Sandy said. I want to thank all of you for all the work that you do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in the public forum? Close the public forum, which moves us to old business. Resolution number 51, 2021-2022, resolution authorizing and approving a community attraction and tourism grant agreement.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay. Brian and Dane, discussion? Okay, seeing none, council please vote.
Aye.
Mine doesn't work. Aye. If it's me.
Aye.
Okay, then that is approved. To take us to new business. A, resolution number 52, 2021-2022, a resolution to provide for a notice of hearing on proposed plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Fieldhouse 2022 project and taking of bids therefore.
Move to approve.
Second.
Dean and Steve. Discussion. Actually vote on it, so council please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then that is approved. Takes us to B, ordinance 1022, 2021, 2022, an ordinance amending provisions pertaining to sewer user charges, chapter 99. First reading.
Move to approve. Second.
Barb and Sandy, discussion.
Do we know from last year to this year, it's gonna like double pretty much according to the numbers? Or the minimum is gonna double? Do we know how many? And I guess maybe you know, maybe you don't. Do we know how many actually have the minimum charge? I mean, does anybody ever actually get the minimum if they're living here? I mean, I'm suppose if they're on vacation, they don't have any usage, they'll have the minimum, but do people really, are we that low? I mean, is raising the minimum gonna really affect that many bills? That's kind of where I'm getting.
That's in addition to the user
Yeah.
charges.
Everybody gets them, that charge in addition.
Right, but
to
I'm just saying, so I'll just use an example for the sewer construction number that's on here. It was $244 last year. It's gonna be $5 this year. Does anybody really under $5? Oh, never mind. I read it wrong.
Okay.
That's just the fee.
Yeah.
That's not the
That's not
minimum
even-
charge.
Yeah.
It's not an
Because it
actual.
says minimum on here. The usual user charge, I was looking at the wrong number, 12 to 20. I mean, is there anybody really under $20 now? Is it really gonna affect that many bills?
Only if they don't have any usage. I mean, everybody gets those charges.
Everybody gets the charge. So
And then if they
Right.
have usage.
No, I guess my question was, does anybody ever not use $20 if they're actually home?
That's the base, no matter what.
no matter what.
No, I know that's what it's gonna be, but last year it was $12.
Yeah, but say if you're gone for an
Oh.
entire month, you are still going to get charged that minimum.
$20. So my question is,
If you add
But if,
one and two
no, I'm doing the
together,
usage here. It's gonna be a minimum of $20. Does anybody ever use under $20 now? Do we have that many that are under $20?
so would anybody add the 12, 16, the 244 and have
No,
some use?
I get that these quantity charge and the sewer construction charge is a flat fee. I'm saying that we run the meter on that you have to use at least $12.16 now, or you're gonna get charged for it no matter what. And now it's gonna go to 20 instead of 12.16. Do we have a number?
How many people are affected by that difference?
Right.
Everyone. Right? Everyone.
No, the only way you'd be affected is if you use less than $20 a month before.
So he's saying how many people are using between $12.16 and $20 right now?
Well, so maybe to help if Karen explains, so does everyone pay the 20 and then they pay the volume on top of that?
It says, in addition to the minimum monthly charge, each contributor shall pay a user charge rate for operation and maintenance, debt retirement, all that kind of
Yeah, I
stuff.
get it.
You have-
User charges, there's a minimum
You add 1 and 2 together,
And three.
in 3.
yeah.
But 1 is the minimum charge on usage.
No, that's just the user charge. That's,
I think it's probably just labeled poorly.
It should just be like, it's like base plus your usage. Is 1 plus 2.
everybody starts at 12, 16 last year.
But I looked at my bill, comparing it to this. But my bill isn't a good comparison because I use more than this. I'm never gonna pay the minimum charge unless I'm gone, for that month. Never mind, we don't have to discuss it.
Well, I see what
I'll
you're
Karen.
But everyone pays the minimum
I'll send it
charge.
to you and help you understand it.
Yeah, I think I understand. it. I just wondered if we know what the number is, and maybe we don't. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe I'm overthinking
So if
it.
they're, so like snowbirds, for instance,
I'm gonna pay $20.
yeah, that would be the
They're gonna
minimum, but usually they call and they shut their service off and they pay that one-time charge and then they don't get
They
a
don't have the minimum
charge.
fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I
that
just
way it's shut,
I was
cut off
just-
for 6 months and then, or 3 months or 4
I
months,
just-
whatever it is.
run numbers in my head and I was just I like to do scenarios, so to speak, and don't worry about it.
Might be your own
Yeah.
scenario, Brian.
If I really need to know, I'll have Karen pull it up for me or Don or something. Okay, never mind. So to speak.
Though.
Yeah.
I get why you, the caption is,
I double checked.
It should be a user.
It's a user
It's a
fee.
user.
It's not a minimum fee, it's a user fee.
Yeah.
But it says minimum.
Yeah, but it's a user fee.
Just to
Not
be
not usage, it's user.
user.
Yeah, it says minimum.
Is-
It's out of place, yeah.
Okay. All right, then. Asked and answered. Good enough. Maybe. Karen, I'll call you later.
For him to put into this.
Okay, other discussion about sewer?
We discussed it enough.
Okay, council, please vote.
Aye.
Takes us to item C, approve new liquor license for Class C beer permit for Imperial Reliance LLC, DBA Moe's Mart number 15 at 136 Lincoln Highway, date January 11th, 2022.
Move to approve. Second.
Brian and Dane. And I know we do have a report in here from our fire chief, but if council has any questions?
Oh, are they here? Can we table this until we actually see something happening in those places? There's no Like, there's nothing new happening on the corner closest to ours.
There's ADT there putting in a security system today. I
Yeah,
drove
yeah,
by.
but I think the same stuff that was sitting there in 2020 when they shut down is still sitting inside. The store is not ready to open. They don't go without the rest of the stuff. I mean, that's from my perspective.
Yeah, hi, Ray Reynolds here, Fire Chief. We did do multiple inspections at the site. They did remove the nuisance items, the sign, the refrigerator. They've taken all the food products out and disposed of them. There was a rusty cooler that they've removed the window just got replaced this week. So from our perspective, the things that we noted in both the fire code and the nuisance, short of snow removal,
No kidding.
would indicate he was there today. He's been in town a number of times and stuff. So everything we've asked him to do, he did in a timely manner. The only hiccup was he was not ready for the last council meeting. And knowing that you would want everything fixed, I just told him you're not ready. And so, but he fixed all the electrical cover plates and everything. So from our perspective, he looks like he's done everything we've asked him to do. So,
Does he have an opening date scheduled?
ooh, that's a good question. I have not asked that question.
Like, if he's
Yeah.
not going to open, we can wait until he's ready to open.
Yeah, the impression I got from him is that he was waiting to get the license, the liquor and tobacco to open this, because he distinctly asked about this date and moving forward. So I think he's kind of waiting for this to open, because without tobacco and alcohol, he's probably not gonna do much, I think.
Are the gas pumps ready to go? That was the problem on our corner. The
Sure.
gas pumps didn't work.
Sure, they were red tagged, and the reason they were red tagged is because by the DNR, because the insurance company, he has to take out insurance on the underground tanks. And so those were inspected by the DNR, and it's my impression that once he kind of gets some of this in place, that he's gonna hopefully remove the snow and fill the tanks and go with fuel and everything. So, but like I said, he's been very cooperative and cordial to us, and does indicate he wants compliance. And I will tell you, the store by you is actually pretty clean. When you go inside, they had some water leak issues that our city folks spent some time on. But since then, they've done quite a bit of work. I think Ryan can weigh in too, that they're pretty, your place is clean. He does have somebody contracted to come in and put sheetrock in an open void space that has been like that for a long time. It's not really required by code, but it was more of a aesthetic thing. So I can't tell you for sure an opening date. I can probably track it down and find that out. So, but I did convey how particular we wanted compliance before you were to move forward. So he understands that.
Thank you.
Other discussion? Okay, do we have motion second? Seeing no other discussion. So council, please vote.
Aye.
That one is approved. Takes us to D, approve new liquor license for Class C beer permit for Imperial Reliance LLC, DBA Moe's Mart number 16 at 731 Lincoln Highway, date January 11th, 2022.
Move to approve. Second.
Dane, Brian, further discussion? Being none, council, please vote.
Aye.
That's approved. Takes us to E, approve new. That? We approve new fiscal year 2021-2022 retail cigarette tobacco permits beginning January 11th, 2022. There's number 1 for Moe's Mart number 15, 136 Lincoln Highway. Number 2, Moe's Mart number 16 at 731 Lincoln Highway.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Brian, Sandy, discussion on those.
Does it matter, Aaron, that the date says January 11th? Since we're past that already?
Is that the date that it was submitted originally? Is that the meeting that they,
Original submission.
yeah,
Does it matter then?
not worried about
That
it?
it's the 11th? Okay.
That was with the tip.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, council, please vote.
Aye.
That's approved. Takes us to F, approved tree trimming work for the cemetery.
To approve. Second.
Sandy, Barb. Discussion?
I just wondered if this includes derecho, the trees that are, this isn't gonna,
Not related to duration.
okay,
They may find some stuff when they get up into the canopy
yeah,
removed that was, you know.
Yeah.
forgotten.
okay. But this is the usual tree trimming, okay.
Other discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote.
Aye.
That's approved. Takes us to G, approved purchase of vehicle for the police department.
Answer any questions if you have.
You really think they'll have you on by April?
Yeah, from my conversations with Carl Chevrolet, they have quite a bit that was coming in. And as long as we're willing to move forward with it, they have one reserved for us.
Good.
Move to approve.
Why a Tahoe instead of an Explorer?
So it's something I've been kind of pushing for a while, but I mean, it just didn't make sense. As the prices have gotten closer together, we'll see an actual turnaround as an investment with the trade-ins. So before it would have cost a little bit more, but now with the life of the Tahoe, we should see a little bit of profit. So
Also have better gas mileage as well with the Tahoes because
right now our Explorers are all-wheel drive. Middle of the summer, they're all-wheel drive, which does really well for us, gets around the snow a lot better. With the Tahoe, it runs the four-wheel, two-wheel drive. So 9 months out of the year, we'll be doing two-wheel drive, which does have a higher fuel efficiency. It's really hard to tell with police vehicles just because of the way we drive them. But it's the same chassis as my Silverado. I'm getting about 21 miles a gallon. The Explorer I'm driving right now, it's about 12.
And then you say the trade-in value would be more.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of hard with police vehicles. So get a quote for a trade-in of 2014 Explorer or a 2014 Tahoe if we had one. That's about a $6,500 benefit of Tahoe versus that. And then in my packet that I submitted with some NADA values that just, same model year and mileage. We're seeing anywhere from $3,000 to the $10,000 difference in trade-in values.
Okay. Thanks.
We had a motion by Barb,
I'll second it.
second by Dane. Further discussion?
I'm going to ask, do you anticipate this will stay in service any longer, being a truck-based chassis rather than car-based?
We've been doing every vehicle is going to be different. I reached out to local departments that use Tahoes and Fords and Explorers and kind of see the same thing for lifespans. You're not going to see one that lasts longer than the other. And obviously some cars don't last as long. We've been kind of implementing a plan where that's increased our longevity. Right now we have a 2014 that's still on the road, and just with some of the steps that our department's taken, we're trying to get a couple more years out of them. So I think we'll get the same with the Tahoe.
Further discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote.
Aye.
That's approved. Reports, starting with city administrator. Probably wishes he was still someplace warm.
So because I was someplace warm, I did not really have much of a report on. So if you guys have any questions on anything, I'd be happy to answer, but I do not have much to say. But aside from the weather, it's great to be back.
Okay, council, anything for Jordan? Okay, and moving on from my report, we've met a couple times about the Wellness Month in February, and that's coming along. So Move Week starts next Tuesday, and we were able to get really good uptake. The dance studios said they're busy this year. They'd like to do it next year, but otherwise we got 100% of everybody else that we invited to participate to do something. So Marlis and Rhonda have been huge helps putting stuff together, and should have probably an announcement of things coming out tomorrow or the middle of the week sometime for what's going on next week. So there'll be a kickoff forum at Gates Hall on Tuesday, and then Blue Moon is doing yoga at the arena. They're partnering also Tuesday after that. Wednesday, there's pickleball, park and rec. So if you haven't learned to play, you can go learn to play. Thursday, all the Move groups are getting together. It's kind of like a vendor fair also at Gates. And then there's a whole bunch of other events going on through the week. So, and then from there, it'll be fun and create and all sorts of things the rest of the month. Anything for me? Okay, council reports.
The purchase of the Camelot Theater has been completed, and the board is continuing work on the grants that we intend to have the city apply for the end of this month. So
Great.
looks like it's on target.
Any other reports? And we'll start staff and head up to the microphone. Start with fire.
Okay.
Okay. Public Works.
Good evening, everybody. I just got a couple of things to add. Mark and I attended the conditional use permit meeting going at the county, and for those of you that didn't hear, it was tabled. They're going to do some more research. As far as wastewater, Mark's doing some check on getting a dialer for the lift station out by the new addition. We got some quotes on that. And the street department, we got our yearly allotment of snow and wind snow, so we're done and cleaned up, and they call it good for the year. But we helped the Parks Department. I think we took out, 30 trees or anything? 40 in a couple of days. We want to bet.
That's some 25 a day. That's 40. You said
40
a couple days. That's 20 a day.
40, we did 30 in a day, so I guess you can spend it how you want. And, but other than that, we're, moving forward. Maintaining the vehicle and keeping everything nice. You got any questions? Glad to answer them.
Got lots of good feedback about the
Yes.
Yeah,
the
thanks for
street
your work.
cleanup, so pass that along, please.
Positive snow removal.
Nice job.
Rescue friends in other communities that couldn't even get in their streets, so, and our streets are fine.
Yeah, we had some, it came really wet and it melted, and then we had an intersection that has some ice on it, but good Anthony, Ames, it was pretty tough.
Mhm.
Pretty proud of the guys and the job they did, so
You did a great job.
thanks.
Okay. And Brenda, I don't know if you have anything you want to share from NEDC?
Good Dryer, Nevada Economic Development Council. Thanks for letting me crash the staff reports tonight. A couple things.
Speak now, I'll forget about it. So,
Yep. So, couple things I want to highlight. A couple neat awards that some businesses here in Nevada have received really in the last month. So. We broke word today as on the hospital getting some neat designation as an ISO 9001. So great designation. One of very few hospitals here in the state to receive that designation. Almaco last week announced that they're a parent-friendly company, and that's new designation with the state. And I think Steve Almaco was probably the first one to take the quiz and figure that out. So it was exciting. exciting to announce that. And then Burke, in the past, earlier in January, actually got a very good safety award from Hormel. So it's fun to celebrate when good things are going on in your companies. And it was just as it worked this month, 3 really good things as it relates to 3 good employers in your community. Hot off the presses is the Business Retention and Expansion Report, not only for the Eames and Boone County areas, but we have a customized report for Nevada. And so we'll be going through this with NEDC later this week, but since I was here, I brought copies for all of you, anybody in the audience that might be interested in reading that as well. We can make that available, but we can find the information very interesting as it relates to your community. For the most part, your businesses are very happy, and I would say you should be very pleased with the results. So we did 90 surveys across 2 counties, and we pulled out the surveys that related to the companies in Nevada to give you the customized report. So I'd sure take any questions you might have on the economic development fund. I'm glad Jordan's back. I've kind of missed him, so it'll be good to catch up tomorrow, and there's lots going on.
And Brenda and her team have been putting together information about rentals to go with our ordinance discussions. So I think our initial plan was to do an educational discussion about that at the next meeting and then do the public workshop again, the one after that, so that we can take time to do that. So
Look forward to that conversation.
okay. Jim.
Just want to take this moment to thank you for your support for our projects that were on the agenda tonight. So we're excited about what's to come and look forward to having you all involved as we go through that process. So we're greatly appreciative of that. And as Jeremy mentioned, staff has been busy working out at the park. We got down about 40 different ash trees. There was a few other scrub ones in there that they took out. So we appreciate their help, and that's been a good project. The staff has been, Rhonda and Aaron are knee deep, probably neck deep in spring and summer programming plans right now. So diligently trying to get all that stuff pulled together. We are taking applications. So if you know of anybody that's interested in working, please have them reach out to Rhonda and she'll get them an application for that. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for getting that snow at Mardine Park, or for getting that
Absolutely.
done.
Yep, you're welcome.
I know it seems like a small thing, but I like it when my neighbors are happy.
That's not a big deal at all. So, all right, thank you.
Good evening. Seems like it's been a while since I was here. Got nothing new to report. We're still doing the hiring process. I think February 5th is the testing date. Sergeant Henderson is in charge of that. And last time I talked to him, he thought he about 10 applicants. So we're figuring maybe 5 will show up. So it's historically that way. Thank you again for allowing us to make a new purchase. As Sergeant Brandis says, we try to get a lot of miles out of our cars and keep them a long time. I think 2014 is the oldest line car we have. And the police vehicle that's assigned to me, it's a 2011. So still runs really nice. It's starting to show its age a little bit. But last week I met with all the other chiefs, the sheriff and the county attorney's office. We meet about once a quarter. They're all the policing agencies are having the same issues with staffing. And everybody's waiting for us to get our people up and trained so they can steal them from us. But it's an ongoing joke, but it's true. So it happens. Other than that, things are going well. Our officers in training are doing a good job. I got a letter late last week from a citizen that lives in Jefferson. His vehicle got stuck in the snow, and Officer Dix assisted him in getting out of the snow, and he was very appreciative. Wrote a nice letter, sent her a gift card, $50 gift card. And so we gave her a choice. She could either keep the card and resign, or she could give the card back to the city and she could keep her job. So she's still with us. So if you have any questions, that's all I got.
I would say, Chief, Friday night, we had the conference wrestling meet at the high school. And I'm really good with names, but I can't remember. It's our newest officer.
Calvin Sidness.
Yes.
Yes.
He was in and out, with some calls and not, and I got a lot of comments after that. It was kind of cool that they seen him there and that he was, I think that's cool. I know we've had the discussion a lot of times about when we're full staffed, you guys have more time to do that. Well, there's a lot of positive comments that he was there and associate with the kids and the parents and the people we not necessarily like as much from other school districts, but yeah, so that's kudos for you guys for him doing that.
Thank you.
I know he had to run a few times, got a call, and down the stairs he went because he was up there by us. We were doing the YouTube feed for the live feed. He stood up there and hung out with us most of the time, but by the time boom, he was out the door. So
I know the sergeants really emphasize to our staff to get out of the car, go to the parks, go to the schools, try to be visible.
Yeah.
And it really helps in the long run because when you have to deal with people in a professional manner versus a conversational like at a school, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, there's a lot of good feedback, so I'll let you know that.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else to report? Okay, Rhonda, you got anything? Okay, how about the peanut gallery over there? Karen?
Budget? Budget, budget, and budget.
What engineering?
No.
Karen?
No. Oh, actually, you guys are now the proud owners of 102K Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I had to report. So.
New Year, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Wow. Valentine's Day or whatever. Next, yeah.
Get through it with love. Get a big heart on it before you burn
Be a
it.
big community fire, right, Ray?
Yeah, we actually have plans Thursday for the asbestos inspection and then talk to Jeremy to coordinate disposal date. We kind of want to wait till the summer or spring because of the basement. And the hole would be important.
Yep.
In the block party.
I say, Jordan, I've got some marshmallows and graham crackers.
There you go. We could just do a pool party too, fill it with snow, let it, Yeah. Pool plunge, there you go, I like it. Great idea.
Pretty creative.
Yeah. That note, any other comments before we?
Ray, you guys aren't gonna burn it there, are you? Didn't you say you didn't want to burn it there or something?
Yeah.
I remember you said something about it before.
I think the proximity to the neighbor's property and the power lines, it would take quite a bit to move some of that stuff around. And I've talked to our public works folks and I think we have a pretty good plan. We still got to do a little bit with maybe a company to help us get the house down, but I think the garage can go relatively quickly. Our biggest concern is we have to be good stewards too. And if we expect people to fill in a hole when they tear a house down, we also have to abide by that. So as much as I wanted down yesterday, I think we're going to kind of wait till maybe better weather or at least get part of it. So,
okay. But
we are moving. We did, Ryan and I put a letter together and we did walk the neighborhood today and kind of let the neighbors know that we are moving on it. The city does own it. And so that way they have some awareness that there'll be some vehicles in and out of the property, but we're really excited. I mean, this is a big move. The neighborhood's excited and we want to get the house down before it falls down. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we will have the budget workshop after we adjourn the formal meeting. I'll move to adjourn.
second.
Dean, Brian, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, then that's adjourned and we'll transition into the budget workshop.
Is that gonna be the other Zoom meeting, Brett, or is it gonna remain in this one?
This one. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
I just want you all in the feel like you have a dump place to innovate it. That's what I'd like to know.
They're working on it, so I know there's been some ideas that both Jeremy and Jordan have been working on. I'm not sure what the status of some of those options are, but they were looking through several different options to present back to us, so
So you in favor of have a dump place here in the Veda? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
Are you in favor of have a dump place here in the Veda for the people?
We just gotta figure out how to keep people from dumping their.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's the problem we've had is when it's
And
been open.
that was
dumping
a good idea, you know, you put that gate up, you put that canvas up, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
No, and they're working on it and we're supposed to have options back in front of us.
Down this site like next spring, summer, spring, fall, then say my customer turns to weather, then close it up.
Thank you, Louis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, take care of it.
Hang it. Sure, Louis doesn't like paying money to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was gonna, those moms had that.
She's like, I was like, yeah, it's not. Beach in Florida.
Next year.
Easier to get to.
Yeah.
Did you have this travel okay?
There it is.
Okay. So we Sunday at 3 p.m.
Look at me, I found it all by myself.
Good for you.
Sometimes I'm
Down here, right there?
If you go to the PDF icon, the little red,
Yeah, like that.
and then you'll see your choices.
Back,
And
Right
there's the
there.
workshop.
There it is.
We were up for 36 hours straight because neither of us.
Yeah, I got that too.
It's really weird because I usually.
Oh, but what,
Once I get a
So
plan
that, I told him.
Start moving and done,
Type
yeah.
in
I
that.
couldn't fall asleep at all.
Sheldon.
no.
So it
Okay,
was just,
so, yeah.
it was
So
kind of
go
weird.
back up here and start.
You know, we were
This
just.
is what he sent me.
Got back here.
And then I
Yep.
answered.
I got that same, what you'll
I
talk
said
about.
that you and I had
That
talked
was
about
just
it.
hard.
So then. you was seeing this.
I slept basically from halftime in the game last night all the way until, well, I got up at 2 o'clock.
All right. That's all the words.
Is there a PowerPoint someplace?
Jason, well, I muted it so that all the side conversations weren't picked up by the.
Can everybody hear now?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to start with that packet that was sent out that had the list of forms and those kinds of things. And I shared it up here. I'll try and go through it as I'm talking as best I can. The first sheet was the timeline that helps us know what's coming up, and anybody else, the other departments and council know what's scheduled for what date and on track with the budget. And some of these documents you've already approved in a council meeting, so we won't review them word for word because you've already seen them. But the next set of paperwork is the equipment revolving for each department. They kind of look forward on what they're going to need for the next year. They actually do this in 30 years. 15 years. 30 years would be a long time. 15 years, but you're seeing the current year and then the next fiscal year for each department and what they're looking for to purchase for their equipment revolving.
Need a magnet.
Yeah.
Then
When you say you replace the tractor broom, is that just the broom part itself or the whole unit? Just the broom, okay. That's what I thought. But yeah. No, I meant the whole unit or just the bristle. Or the whole complete
If
unit.
just the bristles would do that, but a lot of times
Is-
those are supposed to be commercial heavy duty units, but we don't usually get.
Okay,
So. You're really less.
okay.
the next worksheet that we use to incorporate into the budget is the capital improvement program. And that lists out the different projects that are anticipated for the next 5 years. And we even try and look at the unscheduled in the future years to see what those costs might be. So this really shows the projects we are looking for in 23 and the dollar amounts, and that's the dollars we put into the projects for that. Staff and department heads meet with the engineers and discuss about the roads and what's needed in each department. So everybody has input into this. The next one is the local option worksheet. And I know Mayor had asked me some questions tonight or today, and I didn't get a chance to do those. So I will work up a sheet and show you what we've done in the past.
And then on that, should council want to amend this? I know these were approved last time. Can that still be done?
It can still be done. Yeah, we could still increase it and if you're thinking you want to increase it, then we can increase it. And if we don't spend it, that's fine. But once it's set through the budget, it can only be amended. It could be amended, but
And
at a later date.
kind of where that came from is, I think you all got the same email from Luke about the human services budget. I know budget committee, obviously, we've been all over the place on that because we had an auditor's opinion in the previous audits, you all remember, that said we had to stop. Well, then there was a court case that said it could be done, and then a new auditor's opinion came out in November. So there's been guidance all over the place. So I asked Karen to talk to the people who actually do our audit to say, hey, you said we weren't doing it anymore. You told us not to. Is it okay if we do go back to some sort of process, just to know what our options are? And obviously it's up to the six of you, what that looks like, how much is there. I think there's several options as far as now's a good time probably to just look at the whole process and fine tune things we didn't like about it if we do decide to fund it, so.
And just some of the things that I've been working on is I've been working on some sort of a template that'll allow us to basically get more information from these organizations so we know where the money is actually going. Because one concern that I had was I really do not have an issue with this, but I have an issue with it going to salaries. I think if this is going to be something that the city is going to be doing, it needs to be on, your shelter, your food, water, and your clothing, things that are actual needs for the community, something that shows a direct benefit. And I think that's where the AD's opinion is, or the AG's opinion is coming from, is he wants to see that direct benefit to the community rather than the indirect benefit, which some of these committees, there is an indirect benefit to the community rather than the direct benefit.
I had a couple of questions. So do we have more requests than we had $25,000 budgeted? Are there people going unfunded, or what's the situation look like, having not been involved with that?
They typically do pare down requests, but I think that's something to look at, because some folks might ask for, knowing that it's going to get pared down. I mean, you ask for more than what you think you're going to get and things like that. And I think just looking at, and Mayor Lathrop had come up with charity buckets, and it was really hard even for me coming in to go, how do these things get in these buckets, and how do we define it? And so, I think it would be important for us to figure out, are there certain things we think the money should go towards, and maybe define better, because then the committee will have a little bit more guidance about, what we're looking for too. So.
One other suggestion and I did share this with Luke after his message, would be, because there are other ways to help nonprofits in Story County, it would be interesting to see, how can maybe group some of the money? We have a bucket that we leverage, Story County Community Foundation, United Way, some of those other programs that are designed to help nonprofits. That would be of interest to me. Like, how do we help those organizations that we have leverage some of those other dollars, and ours becomes the match perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something I've always brought up, is the matching thing, because the problem I've had being involved with this for quite a few years is I've seen some of the people that have asked and then don't ask that ask, and some of them, and then you hear comments from people that say, well, ask for twice as much as you really want. That's what Brett was referring to, that people will ask for way more, hoping they'll get what they want. So that's why the committees had to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but they'll slash people's requests. But some of them I look and say, I see that, they have the ability to do it, to raise the money. They just aren't. It's easy to ask for us for it rather than, and I don't want to pick on the PTA, but I'm going to, because the PTA used to never ask ever. But the PTA used to do a lot more things in the past. They had all kinds of fundraisers, all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden they quit doing them and they started asking us. And now they're doing more again. So I'm not really picking on them, but that was just when I glanced up here. But they're not the only one. There's other ones out there. It's like, wow, they could do a lot to help themselves, but it's easy to ask us. And that's the whole direct benefit thing. I think that you kind of mentioned, and that Jordan was mentioning, how can we help them help themselves, so to speak, rather than just giving it to them.
I think we have an excellent example tonight of the library. Wasn't that fun to hear? The library's, the difference that they have in their budget, they're going to make it up with private dollars. I mean, we have our own public example of.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think going back to Sandy's point about making sure groups are out there motivated to maximize other sources, and I think showing that they're doing that, because we have had groups where we've been 100% of their funding in the past, and there are other options. So what we need to decide is the number that goes in that box. Is this appropriate? Do you want more? Because then we can put together a group that's going to figure out the structure, and we have time to do that. We just don't have time to play with that number. So we need the cap. I also, which obviously George's just getting back, but I think you need to have a discussion with the school about the resource center. They have the ability to levy, does it make sense to continue to split that funding, whatnot? So I think, because that's PTA, so that's about 50% almost of what was there last year. So figuring out that, That's a big piece. So we need to probably decide this because we approve the budget next time in February.
We don't approve it, but we set the public hearing,
Okay.
which triggers everything else.
Okay.
So do we have latitude to
Nice.
increase this?
We can, yeah. So I mean, you can give guidance tonight. Obviously, we can't make a quote decision right now. You can provide guidance to see in future documents. So you see it was 55 last year, 21,000 of that was Resource Center. So they've always been a big hunk.
I think we need to figure out the resource center and some other things and actually figure out some needs for the community before we increase the dollar amount potentially, just because it's a lot harder to put money into it when we've already created a certain line item rather than, I guess what I don't want to see happen is I don't want to say, okay, we're going to set it for 55,000 right now. And then later on we come in and say, okay, let's do 70,000 now. And I also don't want to see, okay, let's set it at 55 and slash it. Or, so I think what Brett was saying, we need to get with the school, talk about the resource center and see which ones are actually a direct benefit and a need to the community. And then go off of what we can do with that. Because local option tax, we use that for a lot of things because it's for the community. So we need to be cognizant of what we spend that money on. So I think setting a dollar amount isn't necessarily something that we need to do right this moment, but we just need to be aware of some of this isn't necessarily a need for the community because it should be a school responsibility.
Well, we need to also decide, do we want to continue to go forward? I mean, Aaron sent that email out last week about we're going to potentially lose a bunch of backfill. Do we continue to give away money that we need to use for operations? I mean, it's great that we've been able to do it, but are we going to continue to be able to do it? I mean, I think we have to prioritize where we spend our money. I mean, there isn't very many cities out there that do this. I mean, you'd have to dig pretty hard, I think, to find some more. And maybe you don't have to dig as hard as I thought, but if we're gonna do some backfill, do we spend this? You do what, have to dig or don't have to dig?
You do. There's
Yeah.
not many that do it.
Yeah, there's not many that do it. So we're kind of the unique thing, so.
We talk about the increase in sewer charges. Well, that $55,000 makes a decent dent every single year, and those are the things that we have to think about on the budget standpoint is, yeah, we would love to provide all these things for you, but okay, we have, let's say in 10 years, we have a police vehicle that we can't buy a police vehicle because we're using $55,000 on one of these ad hoc,
Or road construction.
or road construction, I believe our engineer says we really need to spend, $1 million a year for road construction. Well, we can't do that because we can't afford it. It's just, it's not.
I got a question.
Yeah, Jason.
Have we let any of these folks know that we planned on reducing our amount that we are putting out?
Yeah.
Some of these places do kind of count on some of this.
I think now's a good time to have that discussion because all the groups were notified that we were required to stop because we were. So they I think got 2 years. They got one that said, hey, we might have to stop. And the second year said, this is the last thing. So they've had a couple of years to think about other plans. So I think it's fair for us to have the discussion overall. As far as Brian's point, I did talk to the league's lobbyist who's at the Capitol. I'm like, if you ever hear something moving, come get me. I'm here. So, I think we need to keep a tab on local option tax. I haven't seen anything else since then. So I think hopefully that's not actually going anywhere.
But
Obviously, we have to keep an eye on it. It's not going to affect this budget. It would be future budgets. So we have time to respond to whatever the legislature does. So I think, we need to just take a look at these. And so one of the the things we were gonna do is try to categorize like food, clothing, shelter, stuff in one bucket, other services in another, so that we get an idea of what we've been spending in different types, just so you have better data to go on, so.
Like that, I also like what Jordan led with, which was an intake where we really know what are their revenue sources and.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
We've been in their money.
And we have a history of some sort of matching component that's been a good incentive. It started with NEDC, moved into Main Street, moved into Historical Society. We've done a match, which is kind of incentivized groups to maximize other funding sources. Obviously, a full one-to-one match, you know, some of these budgets are way more than we give them, so that might not incent them very much, but, so, you know, but asking them to show where they're getting it so that that can kind of be explained what their funding sources are. And, you know, we've typically gone to the full ad hoc group that hasn't had council members. I mean, we can have council members involved on that. We don't have to do it fully. Community member ad hoc too. So I think there's lots of considerations on how it can be done. Or you could give, or suggestions to come up to give it all to Asset or all to the Nevada Foundation and let them work through with the nonprofits from there once we tell them what it should be used for. So that was also a discussion that has come up.
I think that's where I was headed, like the leveraging of those other resources and good, you know, they have a thorough decision-making process.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have to duplicate.
It's more like a grant that requires all of that to paint that entire picture.
Yeah.
Right. That just having been on the YSS side of this process for 10 years, there's expectations about what a county seat community provides for those citizens that come that need services. But the uniqueness of us being the county seat and Ames being the collective majority really is a tricky kind of thing to maneuver. So anytime we think we could partner with a like Story County Foundation or a county-wide thing, and now that we're doing a much better job of having Eastern Story County folks on those in those decision-making bodies at Asset and other places, that was not true when I think this process started. And we still need to be able to, do those poverty kinds of things, make sure people are warm, dry, and have a roof over some food.
Oh, yeah, and that, yeah, and that's what my point is.
Yeah.
Those are needs.
Right.
Those are community needs. So clothing, your food, your water, and your shelter, everything that you just mentioned falls underneath that. So,
Exactly.
and that, to me, that is worth
Yeah.
this.
And there are folks that do that on behalf of the whole county that are located in Nevada. And so the hard part of that is, how do we get the folks from here to be able to easily access that? And so transportation is another one of those pieces that could fit in that bucket, because in order to get Good Samaritan funds here, you have to have made your way through the whole MICA process and exhausted that before you come back and say, here. But you have to go there, and there's no public public transit doesn't come this far. True. And folks are even going farther east in order to be able, they can't even afford to live here. And so they're going farther east and needing that support more particularly from this side of the county than Ames is the other side of the world for some of those folks.
And thinking, Barbara, do you think some of those groups would allow a virtual appointment if we set something up at the library or City Hall, for example, for our residents to have a virtual appointment with Ames rather than have to physically go there?
I don't know, because I know that here, the Good Samaritan, since COVID, have been doing things via Zoom or on phone.
Because I think with the resources, it would be great if we said, we'll help you walk through the resource process.
Save some money on all sides if those folks here the social workers, the folks that are there that help serve our community don't have to be driving back and forth.
It would be a great thing to involve the library in.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, because then we could be the county seat, in the human services side of things. I mean, I don't care that I have to go get my driver's license at Ames. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But it's it's that bucket.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's a lot of history with NCRC, Nevada Community Resource, because that was one of those block grants with, the community had to give quite a bit in order for the whole thing to unveil, and
Is that still the way it's set up though? And if that's the case, if it's for the community, then what other groups are donating to that? Or is it just the city? Because if it's supposed to be for the community, then there should be other groups that are donating to it, not just the city.
Yeah, Chris Burling
And
and
that's,
staff are,
that was kind of my point, and I think that was what Brian was getting at. Are these groups, are they just asking the city, or are they asking other groups as well? And we need to figure that out with that process, because if they're bringing in $20,000 of revenue and their expenses are $1,000 and they're asking us for $20,000, then, and only us, how is that fair to the taxpayers when they're already making enough to cover all of their expenses?
right, no,
It's not.
NCRC no, they're writing grants, they write grants year round. Chris Burling's team is doing that, but.
Right, but that's something that we
that's-
need to have in
the school does
place.
have a unique, safety net for them.
Right, so what I'm saying is we need to
No,
put
it
something in
needs to be.
place so we can make it an easier process.
And we need those childcare positions. Their primary gift to this community right now is that they do childcare.
And that's an economic development.
It's an economic development piece.
So I'm hearing some action items. So it's have a conversation with the school.
Yep.
We'll have Karen put a question mark in the dollar figure, and we can continue to flesh out where that needs to land. Probably would be worth getting a council committee together just to talk about human services. I'm hearing that Barb has some good experience and might want to be part of that. So I'm going to volunteer her.
Hold again.
Is there anyone else that would like to be part of going through that discussion?
I think I could chime in on the funding side.
That would be helpful. Yeah, we had a really brief conversation this morning, and
I
I
know
was like, wow, I hadn't
A
thought
bit
like
about
that.
how United Way and Foundation.
I'd be happy to join in too if need be.
Okay, and I know, do any of our budget folks want to be part of that, or do you want to let those three run with it? Are you looking at me as in do it?
No, I don't care. I'll do it too.
I don't care.
In my opinion, I think we shouldn't do it at all, but.
That could help balance out the committee.
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay, so we'll do Brian, Barb, and Sandy. So we'll have you guys, we'll get something scheduled to hash out some of that. In the meantime.
Let's see if we get some feedback from the school before we have.
Yeah,
a meeting.
I think feedback from the school, and also,
But I think that'll help us.
ask that Micah to see about if they would do virtual appointments with our library, maybe for folks, to see if that's an option to have funding flow through them. Okay, anything else on that topic? Now that we hijacked Karen's presentation. Okay,
That's what this is for.
yeah, no, I knew this one was gonna come up, so. Okay, you can keep going.
Else on that one, and then the hotel motel. Historically, we've only spent what we have at the point of when we're talking about budget. So that's where we came up with the 12,000. That's kind of where we were at, balance in hand. So that's what we budget for the next fiscal year. So that's what staff recommended for spending those dollars. Then the TIF spreadsheet, the tax increment financing, lists out the rebate agreements that we have and those bonds that are paid with TIF revenue. So we have the transfers at the bottom and the expenditures, anticipated expenditures for TIF asking. The next one is the debt service levy that shows our payments that are due for each bond. We've got an estimate in there for the field house, what it might be. It's tentative. We don't know the actuals yet, but, and we won't know the actuals. There'll be another one for the wastewater too, probably in April, somewhere around in there, where we'll need more money for that as well. But this is what we know so far for the debt service levy. Then,
So if I see that correctly, we've reduced our payments by half since 1920.
payments
More than, I look
over,
at the very bottom. Is that correct?
that would, I think that's just the GO payments.
Total principal and interest fees.
Yeah, it doesn't include the revenue, like the wastewater ones.
Really small on my screen, so it's kind of hard to read.
Yep.
Doesn't rotate.
I don't think you can on this one.
The next one is transfers, and we use this sheet just so we know where the transfers are coming out of and then where they're going into. Helps us see which funds are losing them, and we have to also put those transfers in the correct general fund, or they have to equal in the budget, so that helps us resolve those issues. The budget worksheet that I printed off from our software kind of breaks down the function. This is what you usually see monthly in your packets. So it breaks down and shows you what it looked like 2 years ago, a year ago, the current budget, and then the new budget. So it shows you by function is what we call it, or by department, public safety, then Public Works, and the Health and Social Services. That would be where a lot of those ad hoc areas would be. The Culture and Rec would be the library and Park and Rec. Economic Development. This would be some of those payments, rebate payments. The administration, general government would be like the clerk's office and legals and liabilities. Debt service totals. This is only the debt service that is for the GO bonds, because those are the only ones that come out of debt service. The others are paid out of the proprietary, the utilities fund. Capital projects. And then the enterprise funds, the proprietaries. That's where you'll see the big jump for the increase in the wastewater project. And then it shows the transfers and the total expenses. And the main jump, obviously, in the current budget and this year, and the 23 budget is the wastewater treatment facility. The next one is I guess I didn't go through that one, sorry. The revenue side, and this one's generated by the R fund, which is general fund, then the hotel motel, road use tax. A lot of them we budget conservatively because we don't really know what we're going to get. It's been all over the board with the road use tax, how much is going to actually come in. Employee benefits is based on the IPERS, FICA, and Medicare. We use those numbers. We also manipulate those numbers on our certification page to keep our levy rate the same. So we don't have great fluctuations. We try and keep it at the 14,618, which has been there for 6 years, quite a few years, and that helps us not have highs and lows, and we try and keep an even keel, but that's sometimes where those numbers get manipulated so that we can keep it where it's at. Local option tax. Been seeing over 1 million. We hope to see there again, but as I said, we do try and stay conservative on the revenue side. The TIF asking is less this year because we plan to use reserves for some of those payments. Some of those other little ones are what's in the special accounts for trust accounts specifically designed for like the library trust and the fire trust and those individual accounts. The projects accounts, you'll see those, the ARP funds, some of those we've already gotten to date to help us pay for one of the projects we're going to do with the lift station for that. Then you'll see the utilities estimate for revenue. Do the sewer, we'll the rate increase after wastewater agreement with FERC gets all done and see where we land. So it's trying to be best guess estimate for that. The others are pretty similar to the previous years. The increase in revenue again would be largely dependent on the wastewater plant needing more revenue to pay off those bonds. The next thing you had in your packet was the certification page. And that shows the different levies that we've used to get to our 14,618 total levy. And all the ones on here we've done before in the past. The only one that used to be on here was the Gates Hall. It was a voted levy, and without Gates Hall, we're not doing that, obviously, still, so.
Karen, on this, where's the trail levy and the library? I know those are both voted on as well.
That's the capital improvement reserve.
Okay.
That's the capital projects levy. That's down at the bottom. Those are two together. They were.
Gotcha. I was just
both
curious
voted
what line
on.
item they were in.
And if you have any questions, please ask. Just, I'm going too fast, or you've had time to look at it, so no harm. Any questions? The next one is the notice for notice of hearing. This is the new hearing we have to have for the proposed tax levy, showing the residents, giving them, I think, another hearing. I think the legislatures wanted to do this to help them, help citizens see what we levy and what we spend it on, and if it increases and how much it increases. And when they changed that, if we increase more than 2%, it has to be a supermajority vote by the council to approve the budget. But this year, it's estimated to be 1.43, so we're not going to hit that either this year. We haven't the last few years.
And I think what this form helps to do is shows, it helps the public understand in $2 what we're levying versus the levy rate. And I know when the legislature talked, that was a big thing is, communities will say, well, we haven't changed your taxes. We haven't raised the levy rate. Well, maybe they're seeing ridiculous valuation increases in some metro cities, for example. And yeah, they didn't change the rate, but everybody's property valuations went up and they're still getting a lot more. So that's where, where it shows that we're, under inflation, really, for all of our increases. And I think being able to show the public that we're holding that line, while also being efficient and doing more at the same time.
So the fund balance worksheet, I'm having some issues with the balancing in the software and dumping it into the state forms. And so I'm working with G-Works and the state trying to get that all figured out. So the beginning and ending fund balances, this page probably will look a little different. The actual revenue and expenses and everything else about the budget will be what it is, what you're seeing, but the fund balances may look a little skewed. It's been a nightmare. So you may see that change just a little bit, and I'll send that out as soon as it gets squared away. You also have in there the re-estimated expenditures and revenue. And unless we have something big, we really don't do a whole lot with the re-estimated pages. And then you'll see that the expenditures on the page 1 expenditures, and it'll show the breakdown for each individual department within the public safety and the public works. It shows each expense.
Can you just remind us of the process, since I've never been on the budget committee? Like, how do we get to this? Like, what's our process to prepare the?
It first starts with the worksheets that we showed you, the capital improvement plan and looking at the insurance costs and those kinds of things and knowing what those things are coming. And department heads do get worksheets and they get line item detail. Same thing like the worksheets you saw in here. It shows 2 years ago, 1 year ago, current, and then what they spent to date, which it's kind of early. We try and do it a quarter, so give them at least a quarter to estimate from for the next 23 budget. So they look at those and send them back to us. They also do the equipment revolving worksheets and return them to us, and we put them all in there. They each have their own account numbers, and the council committee looks at it and reviews those worksheets, and then all the numbers get plugged into the budget and spits it out. But really, it's with the worksheets that we went over before, and they're all reviewed. The council budget committee or department heads look at and do their own departments budgets and send them back. We have a worksheet too where we do an estimate for salaries. Figure out what each salary might be. It's going to be a little harder this year because with the salary wage study last year, we're doing things a little differently. So this first year, it's going to kind of be guessing by golly, and hopefully we'll kind of have a better idea next year where it might land, because before we had a table that was said, this is what they'll get, and so we kind of had a little bit better thumb on what those were. But so we did estimate a little high just to make sure we had enough to cover, but so it's a work in progress, and the department heads really do a good job of trying to stay within what they've done before. And unless they know certain things are coming or a special project or an increase, like the police had the car cameras one year, the car computers where they hadn't had before. So they knew that was coming and that was going to be an additional expense. So
a lot of the maintenance plans that they're doing, that really helps with their budgeting. As Chris Brandis mentioned, that they have a car from 2014. They're putting all this stuff in their plans. That way they can figure out, if you look back at one of your first pages, you'll see you know, the actual fiscal year, but we actually have them all the way broken down until like year 2040. So it allows us to create a whole entire system that keeps going and dropping down to the next year at it. So, you know, like Karen was saying, our staff, they look at basically every single receipt for the year and the last 2 years, so they can figure out what they're going to need or what they potentially will need for it. Now, obviously, there's things that we can't see that are going to happen, or plan that are going to happen, but you know, that's why we have some of our other funds available in case something happens for them.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the revenue is the same. The state pages are basically taking all the data that they provide and putting it where it needs to go on the state form. They have certain ways they like it coded or different areas that it goes in. And then it shows the adopted budget summary. Like I said, the beginning and ending fund balances are gonna change just a little bit because there's a couple items that aren't showing. They show on my software, but aren't showing on the state form. So somewhere in between, it's not talking to each other nicely. So trying to get that worked out. The long-term debt sheet shows all the bonds that are due. They're labeled GO or non-GO, and the GO is the general obligation, and those are ones that are guaranteed by property tax dollars if we need to. The non-GO would be more like the utilities. They're paid for from the water and sewer revenue. And that's why rates are required to be set so that we can collect at least 110% in order to pay those bonds. And then that shows the total, the long-term debt schedule shows the total. And then the public hearing notice. So that was all in your packet. And if you're not bored yet, I'll bring up the presentation. And if you guys want to toggle over, you can see what's on my screen. I don't think I have, unless it's in, I don't think I pulled that up.
You're gonna remind us how to toggle.
Little buttons down there at the bottom, isn't it?
That first one? Yeah,
Yeah, the
okay.
last one.
Then, where am I going? In the log?
And
I didn't ever do that by myself. That was Bruce's job.
And if there's questions throughout, just holler.
Oh, the red button on my phone.
What is Nevada's financial situation? We currently have approximately 3 million in the bank, but not always expendable, and much is restricted to its use. For example, we've already committed the 4.5 million to the field house. Utility funds have reserves to prepare for growth. So, and those can only be spent on utility. So there's a lot that we can't spend. It sounds like a lot, but a lot is already committed or reserved or for certain things. We strive for a tight budget with amendments only for projects and emergency expenditures. And again, I will say the department heads do a really good job of keeping an eye on their budget and trying to stay within their means and doing what is needed. I think that's what they hear me say all the time. Is this a need or a want? And so we really talk about those things when they're wanting to do something.
Are we keeping an eye on increasing costs, inflation, shortages of products or raising costs? I mean, is everybody pretty comfortable with where we're at on that? It's
so hard.
Yeah, I know, right? I agree.
I did project a piece of equipment out 20 years.
Yep.
Way it doubled that.
That nobody would have guessed that costs would go up like they've gone up this year. Nobody would have seen that year and a half ago, you know?
Or availability of that
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, or the ability to get it at all, right? Yeah, it's got to be super tough to.
We projected out 20 years on the equipment revolving, but I go through it again and call your the price. It's
But short answer, yes, we try to get our inflation in, but it is very hard when we have situations like the derecho and COVID and all of those things. But yes, we do try and do that. That is another reason why we have that, I was talking about the plan, the long-term maintenance plan that we have. That's another reason why we have that, so we can adjust that type of stuff when we need to. So, yeah, but it's hard. Yeah.
Someone on the labor side, you always have what's health insurance going to do and what are benefits going to do. And
So and that's another thing with with health, we try to fluctuate with that. We've been pretty lucky the last 2 years, but I don't think we've been more fortunate than a lot of communities have when it comes to the health insurance, and we haven't seen a lot of increases, which has really helped our budget too.
That helps a lot for sure. All right, sorry to interrupt.
No, please do. The long range run solvency, new businesses and construction add value to our tax base. Balancing our TIF asking allows us to bring more revenue into our general fund, because if we ask for less TIF, it increases our valuations for our general fund. So that helps give a little more to our general fund. So it really is a balancing act, because you have to have enough in the general fund to pay for those services that come out of the general fund. Oh, I'm not. Purpose of a fund balance is reserves are needed. Obviously, the number one need in the last couple of years with the derecho and COVID, and it was nice to know we had some reserves when we needed to get the emergency things that we needed for COVID and those things too. It also helps give us a favorable bond rating of AA stable, and helps us receive low interest rates, and we get good ratings for that too.
that's one thing we should
Typically pay
be.
off our debt early or in short time frame. Reserves help cover expenses when revenues fall short or come in sporadically.
We probably need to do a better job about telling that story. I mean, we have the best bond rating that any community could ask for. And I think that's testament to longstanding good fiscal practices.
What are we doing to manage our financial situation? We assess our fees periodically to cover those expenses associated with the fees. We bid out items to receive the best price. We're trying to do more in-house, mosquito control, concrete work, servicing departments, other departments' vehicles in-house when we can. So we're trying to do those things to help our revenues. There's some examples of financial policies or rules of thumb. We're required to have policies in place to protect our finances. Also, a lot of grants and FEMA and those kinds of things require we have some of these policies as well, but also gives us a tool and a guideline to know what we can and can't do, and what sets our limit. The state mandates our general obligation debt limit. It's 5% of the city's assessed value. And then, as I said before, revenue bonds are repaid with user fees for those utilities, and they don't count against the geo debt limit. How do we monitor our finances? We do you guys see the monthly budget to actual, and we do monthly bank reconciliations. Jordan and I review those bank reconciliations and line item reviews, and department heads get monthly reports as well to keep their budgets in line. And of course, we're audited annually by the state and have to prepare those annual reports to help us know where we are. Budgeting is a team sport, as we've talked about all evening, and everyone is involved, and it truly does take everyone working together. And I can't say it enough, the department heads do an excellent job of preparing their individual budgets and staying on task with the different forms they're required to turn in. Some years it fluctuates. Some departments, a department might need more of an expense one year where the other department doesn't. So it kind of works itself out and balances itself out. This slide shows who the members are of the city's finance team, the elected officials and city staff, the engineers, our financial advisor, our bond counsel, and residents. They all have input into the budget. It's driven by state mandates as well, and services we provide and projects that are desired by the council, the residents, staff. What plans help in putting together a city budget? The vision plans, the 2020 and the 2040 plans, the strategic plan. We typically try every 2 years to have the council and department heads hold a retreat. I think we're talking about trying to get one together here coming up. The CIP and the equipment revolving, those are plans that help us prepare the budget, and along with the other worksheets that we've already discussed. Financially sound, we strive to provide the best services in the most efficient manner. We've upgraded a lot of technology the last couple of years. We've got a new phone system. We try to stay up to date to provide the community with easy access to the services. I think the website's doing that too, with online forms and trying to help them reach us easier. There's just a review of the budget timeline. Kind of starts in August. And we are looking at the insurance renewal and the wellness programs and what our costs might be for health insurance. And September, October, we're looking at the CIP plans and working with the budget committee and on the services, and the budget worksheets in November go out. And then they're returned, and the budget committee looks at all of the local option, hotel, motel, and the TIF spreadsheets. And then here we are in January discussing it. And January, February, we'll set the public hearings for the maximum property tax and then the regular budget. And the budget will be approved in March, at the end of March. The city's on a fiscal year budget that's from July 1 to June 30. We base the budget on past history, trying to foresee any upcoming projects or changes that might occur. Allows us to set policy with expenses detailed with the vision for the upcoming year. The budget is regulated by the state, gives us the authority to spend those dollars, and we provide the services and products and programs in the best way we can. We follow the guidelines of the state, and some years they take things away from us. It results in mandates, unfunded mandates is what we call them. This shows the revenue cycle and how it comes in. And basically it looks like this because of the way people pay property taxes, usually in the spring and fall. So that's usually when our highest revenue comes in. The property taxes is divided up into categories and they each have their unique rollback. There's residential, multi-residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, and utility. And a few years ago, that's when multi-residential was created. Taken out of the commercial industrial, it used to be taxed at the same rate as them, 100% of their property assessment. But they divided the multi-residential would be like the apartment buildings and those kinds of things. To slowly decline down into the residential. So I think it's in a year, it won't even have that class. It'll be all residential, which I kind of hate because I like to see that separated out because you can really see how much revenue we've lost from that category. And once it's in residential, it'll be just a big chunk and you won't really know, won't really see it. But I guess it doesn't matter. We don't get it anyway. Limitations, the rollback means property's not taxed at its full value, only 1%. The state sets the percent for a whole class of property and affects residential the most. Residential and multi-residential right now are the only two that fluctuate. The commercial and industrial has been at 90% for quite a few years.
And that's why those two are so important, because they're stable and you can predict them. Residential is some screwy formula the state uses tied to ag value, inverse of ag value or something. So
the levy rates, we are maxed at the 810 general fund levy rate. As you saw in the state form, very few cities in Iowa are not maxed at the 810 general fund. There are a few. One is close to us, unfortunately. But we levy for the civic center, the employee benefits, debt service levy, and the capital improvement levy. And it's, like I said, it's a balancing act, just trying to stay consistent and not allow large fluctuations throughout the year. The residential property example, this is an example of a $100,000 home assessed value. Then the rollback is applied, which this year it's the 54%, 0.1302. And it shows the total city property tax revenue from that $100,000 home at $791.27. And this kind of shows last year, the rollback was more. It was 56 something. You'll see that in a slide coming up, but we got more property tax revenue because of that. So it helps show that. This shows over the years, the difference and the rollback and how it affects when it's, even though we keep the millage rate the same, the revenue that we receive is on that bottom line.
I think if I'm right, it's when ag lane goes up, we get less from residential. So ag values are climbing.
Mhm.
Yes. This shows how the levy split between the different levies on $100,000 residential property and how each individual levy, the dollar amount they get and how it adds up to the $791.27. This was when they required us to do the public notice and hold another hearing for the maximum property tax to show residents those additional levies and how the dollar amounts look. And this is this slide similar to the residential one. It shows the industrial and commercial and how it's only 90%. So we get more taxable valuation and the revenue is higher. And then this shows the history of it, the years of all the different classes and what their rollbacks were. This shows the estimated loss to cities because of the multi-residential class created by the state. And we talk about the backfill, but with the multi-residential, we didn't receive backfill for it. And this shows an estimate of the lost revenue when they, at the same time they did the multi-residential and the rollback changes. They also created a 3% cap on growth. So this kind of gives an estimate. And as we've all talked about, the backfill is going to be going away over the next 4 years. So we're losing that revenue as well. This shows the tax rates and how it's been divided up the last few years between the city, school, county, and then those other entities. Just a pie chart showing those. It shows the general fund expenditures and where most of those dollars go. This is only the general fund, so it can include those utilities. And this is the revenue sources. As you can see, the most revenue we get is the property taxes. Those transfers in would be like local option tax being transferred into the general fund for those departments that have the equipment revolving. Those dollars go into the equipment revolving. And this shows where Nevada sits as far as our total tax rate for the city versus some other cities that are similar in size to us. And this shows the general fund and what services are provided in the general fund. The police and fire, library, parks and rec, and the field house, cemetery administration. This slide shows budget to actuals. So the first line is the budget, the second line is the actual, and to the right shows what we budgeted. We budgeted like the 18, fiscal year 18, that first line, we budgeted to use some of our reserves. And then when it came in, we didn't use some of our reserves. We actually expended less than our reserve, our revenue. So we increased. This shows the non-activity revenue sources, those sources that aren't from charges or fees that we charge. This is leading us into the public safety and their own, shows you their own revenue and expenses and how they came out versus the year before. A lot of them will vary depending on capital has a big difference in what they're spending for the year. Like the fire EMS, and if there's more calls, the salary wage, like I said, we did budget a little extra because we weren't sure how it was going to play out. There's the library. And there's the loss in revenue that Aaron needed to earlier. And the some of those expenses can be taken out of some of their trust and agency accounts, the Danielson Trust, and some of those other areas that they have available. There's the Parks and Rec. Major change here is the capital expense. There's also, I know we've talked about part-time staff and incentive to retain those staff members to come back for those seasonal positions. The rec page, you'll see a change there a lot because of the softball tournament that was expensed in FY '22. The field house, obviously, we don't have the field house yet, so there's no expenses. We did put in capital the $140,000 to equip the facility, the project. The cemetery, it's the big changes is capital and the salaries. Administration. Not a big change. Anticipated utilities are another thing that we really haven't talked about, and it's kind of unknown what's going to happen with those. I worry about those, even for all departments. The senior center, just trying to balance the revenue and expense to come out even. The street department. Their biggest change is equipment revolving. They aren't budgeting near as much as last year. They also, with the salary, the wage study, they were the ones that probably saw the biggest increase. Water department. You'll see a decrease in their salary, but that they've had some personnel changes and their titles are not, that they don't have their certifications yet. So once they do that, we'll see that change. Wastewater department. I guess this, the debt and the construction project going on. And there was some salary changes as well with them. This lists the project expenses estimated, shows the upcoming ones. We use the CIP to get these dollars. And here's the debt expenses for each project. This concludes the presentation.
Just when we clap.
Yay. Very nice.
Questions for Karen? Everybody understand it back and forth, right?
Can we do it over?
I'm going to request the record button.
You have to take a test after. You can't use plan.
Oh dear.
Awesome.
The next thing that at the next meeting, we'll set the hearing for the maximum property tax. And then the second meeting in February, we'll have the hearing for the maximum property tax. And then we'll set the hearing for the budget. So at that meeting, before that meeting, I will need to know how much, like the local options, we're gonna make any changes or anything like that, so.
Okay. Anything else on the budget? Okay, well, we don't need to formally adjourn because it's just a work session, so appreciate everyone's time this evening. If you have questions afterwards, you can see Karen. You know, if you want to get more brushed up on how TIF and rollback and things like that work, the league has some great programming around that too. Yeah. So that helps. Okay, then we'll go ahead and end tonight.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we could have.
Yeah.